Hey everyone, and welcome to Brawlhalla Weekly Episode 6. My name is Part of the Creed, your host.
I'm TWK Smash, one of your co-hosts.
I'm Designated Asian, your other co-host.
And today our special guest is going to be Zeloxory, who traveled all the way from the UK to attend and take first place at Combo Breaker, the biggest LAN tournament Brawlhalla's had yet. But first, we're going to cover news for the past couple weeks. Unfortunately, we were away for Combo Breaker, and a lot happened in the week we missed, so there's a lot to cover. And we're going to try to get through it as fast as we can. So, on the dev stream this week, BCX, Brawlhalla Championship Expo. To be clear, I know there was some confusion about this. BCX is replacing Worlds, the big tournament that was going to happen later this year. It's basically renamed to BCX. And so basically, BCX will not only be a worldwide tournament, but a full-size convention. That means panels, booths, play sections for separate ranks. Gold players will have their own section where they can fight against each other, silver, bronze, etc., which is super cool. And it still has that over $50,000 total prize pool. It's going to be November 11th to 13th, located in Atlanta, Georgia, Cobb Galleria, and it's going to be open to everyone, so you should totally go if you can.
I think they definitely confirmed Cassidy cupcakes, right?
They're
going to be selling those.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I heard talk of maybe a dev dunk tank. I don't know. We'll see.
I think they said that they can't do that inside the place, but maybe in the parking lot. I also heard rumors of a snow brawl area where you might actually get to literally play snow brawl.
Ooh, it is going to be in November.
Like that.
That sounds super exciting. I don't care where the dunk tank is. As long as it exists, I can't wait to see that.
Yo, how chill is your penguin?
How chill is your penguin? That's going to be the real question. So I did say it's open to everyone. That doesn't necessarily mean it's free. There is going to be an entry fee, but I think we talked about this before, and Matterhorn discussed it on the dev stream a few weeks back. Basically, their target is $20 to $40 for entry fees, so it's not going to be super expensive. It's not going to be $100 or anything, but if you're in the Atlanta area, you should totally go. And even if you're not, if you can figure out a way to drive there or fly there, it's going to be a fantastic experience. You should totally go if you can. And I can't wait to get there and see how it is. So the other thing is that Core came out along with the new weapon gauntlets. We've talked about that a lot in the past couple, episodes of the podcast. We're not going to go super in depth. We're not going to talk about it in the balance section very much, because the thing about a new weapon is people will basically overjudge it in the first few days and weeks that it's out and be like, oh, it's super overpowered. You can do all these strings, or it doesn't do any damage. It's totally underpowered. I think it's too early to call anything, so we're not going to go very much in depth. Next week, though, I think we'll definitely sit down and have a conversation about where we think gauntlets are balance-wise in preparation for the patch that will come out a few days after that, where I think we're going to see some major gauntlet changes. But for now, it's just exciting to see that it exists. I know the subreddit is full of all these cool strings and combos that people are coming up with, and I can't wait to see those in future tournaments. So finally is the announcement about BCS. So BCS is Brawlhalla Championship Series, not to be confused with the Expo. But BCS is the series of tournament matches that took place in April, and has now returned, teaming up with BMG to give you a new tournament every week between now and BCX, which is a lot of tournaments. And not only that, but BMG is contributing to the prize pool. So it's going to be really exciting. I'm sure all the top players are going to be competing in it to get that money. So there's going to be basically three types of tournaments: the $1,000 1v1 tournaments, $1,000 2v2 tournaments, and regional qualifier tournaments. And so what this means is that there are currently 6 regions that you can play in on Brawlhalla servers, and for each different region, there's going to be a separate tournament in which all the people in that server can compete, and whoever wins will get an all-expenses-paid trip to BCX. That means plane and hotel and everything. So that is amazing. You know, it really helps bring exposure to some of the lesser known regions. You know, things like Australia and SEA, the Brazilian servers, the European servers. So everyone will get to compete. And, you know, if you're in a server that you have a shot at, absolutely start training these next few weeks and see if you can get that expenses paid trip to BCX, because I'm sure BCX will be very exciting. Besides
Yeah,
that,
I'm definitely looking forward to, just want to say real quick, that kind of confirms that BCX will be kind of the first place for an official gathering of all the top players across the world. So that's going to
absolutely.
be huge.
I mean, they originally called it Worlds. That was always the intention. And now with BCS, we've solidified a place that people can get a shot at going straight to BCX without having to worry about, oh, you know, I live on the other side of the world. There's no way I'm going to be able to come up with the money to come all the way to Atlanta. You don't have to. All you have to do is win first place in your tournament. And besides that, I mean, it's really cool that BMG is contributing to weekly large prize pool tournaments. That's going to really help grow the competitive scene in general. Plus, I mean, I hear the casters and analysts for BCS are super cool.
This guy.
I don't think of the three of us, anyone will disagree with that. But that about wraps up our news for the dev streams. Now it's time to move on to community news.
Yeah. So, as we're saying, Core just came out, and there have been puns all over the place. I know when they were showing off Core on the dev streams, there were a bunch of rock puns and whatnot. Well, now it's everywhere else. It's on the subreddit. It's on the Twitters. If you saw the Brawlhalla Community Roundup number whatever it was filled with Core related things. 10. Yeah, I was gonna say 10, but I didn't want to be wrong. But yeah, Core is everywhere. It's in this script. Creed wrote incorrigible.
Oh my god.
Yeah, whatever.
Just all the puns. There's no other way to describe them.
Can't avoid it. Anyways, next up, Combo Breakers happened. Going back to Combo Breaker, it was super duper cool. I'm sure that some people out there went there. I know Creed and TWK went. Obviously, Zeloxory went. And it was also live streamed on VG Bootcamp. For those of you who have never heard of VG Bootcamp, it is the primary stream for all Super Smash Bros. Tournaments. So that is pretty huge in the Brawlhalla world.
Yeah, I do want to just say thank you to Gimmer and all the VG Bootcamp guys to, you know, having us there and kind of giving us that exposure. It was absolutely awesome. And I don't know, I really got hype just watching, you know, I was backstage. I got to see Gimmer get really hype at some of the fantastic edge guards that happened in top 8. And I think he just tossed those videos up on his YouTube channel, just today.
Yep.
So, like, go subscribe, check those out, toss him likes and comments and everything.
The playlist is live. I was watching it earlier today. There's all of the top 8 sets, I believe, were live streamed, and you can see it all there, or you can watch it. I think it should still be on their Twitch if you want to see the live chat interaction and see what people have to say live. So either way, it's super cool, and if you haven't seen it, I'd highly recommend it. There's some amazing sets. And other than that, clans have recently gone into the game. So if you haven't gotten your clan tag yet, be sure to pick it up before some other person steals your clan tag. I know Phases of the Moon has their clan tag, and Boo has theirs, and I believe Uzi still has theirs picked up. Yep. Currently, there isn't anything major as far as rewards for leveling up your clan goes. The more you level it up, the more people you can have inside your clan, but there's nothing special as far as like skins or whatever, if that's what you're looking for. But I'm sure BMG has intentions to expand upon the clans. This is just the first pass of what they've added, and if you have any suggestions, feel free to, you know, message them and say, hey, I want more things related to my clan.
Yeah, I mean, I know I'd definitely like to see sort of I'm not sure exactly what to call them, like trophies, or something that basically shows, hey, when you play a ranked game, maybe, or even like any online game, maybe have a little trophy next to the clan tag that says, hey, this is a diamond tier clan. Like, I think that'd be super cool if clans themselves had their own rankings based on the players in the clans.
Yeah, like a highest level clan leaderboard type thing. I know there's I used to play Smite, and in the Smite universe, if you played with a clanmate, you got bonus gold in experience. So maybe something like that for 2v2s would be cool.
That would be awesome.
Who knows?
All right, and I think that actually brings us up to our tournament news. I know we were talking about some of them before, particularly the first one up, Combo Breaker. All right, so this was the largest offline Brawlhalla tournament to date, and one of the most serious ones. The top 8 was definitely stacked. I mean, if you haven't checked out the videos, we had Stevenator, Magma Bob, Ender, Absence, Zeloxory, Boomy, Hoppo, Twilight. Insane matches.
Fantastic.
But you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and say spoilers right now. If you haven't checked them out, go ahead, turn off your headphones.
Or just like pause the video, go check it out right now, and then come back.
I mean do that one. That one is awesome. So here we go. Spoilers. Zeloxory took first place. Boomy took second. Twilight taking third. All right. So spoilers off. You're good now. You're in the clear.
I mean, we also mentioned earlier in the podcast it's actually one combo breaker, but shh.
Well, you just like to ruin everything, don't you?
You know.
All right. That's fine. That's fine. All right. So I gotta go ahead and say thank you to TuboWare. He was there getting us to Combo Breaker. He's one of the guys who helps organize that event with his buddy Rick, the Hotto main guy running it. And from everyone that I spoke to there, it seems like we want to be back next year. Brawlhalla players want to be there. It was an awesome event. People liked having us there. So I'm looking forward to that. And if you guys want to see Brawlhalla at more of these events, things like that, especially Combo Breaker, go ahead and tweet at the Hotto. Let him know Brawlhalla was hype. You want it back. You will show up. It's just, honestly, I've been in the FGC for quite a while, and I've gone to a number of these tournaments. Combo Breaker, hands down, best event I've been to so far.
Absolutely. Oh, it was so good. I just want to give a quick shout out. You and TuboWare did a fantastic job in casting that entire, top 8. I loved it so much. And just in general, the atmosphere you get out of like LAN tournaments is totally different. And it's just super exciting.
Yeah, it was a blast just casting with him because he's an awesome, chill guy, and we just kind of hit it off. So I'm looking forward to seeing him casting a bit more Brawlhalla. I know he was focusing on Street Fighter for a bit, but he's starting to pick Brawlhalla back up. And so if you live in the area for next year, it was right around Chicago. So try and be there. Let Rick know, the Hotto, that you're gonna want to show up. And I think that actually moves us on to some of the more international events that we had. Now, this is one of the first times that I'm seeing some nice organized tournaments for this region. The Australia Barbie Brawl, number 2 coming in. I love that they're, getting their scene up and going, because for a while it's just been like EU and NA having tournaments here and there. I want to see more from these other scenes, especially with these regional qualifier tournaments coming up leading to BCX. So, apparently we talked last week about Barbie Brawl in the previous episode of Creed's podcast. And, moving in, we've now got the winners for this Australia tournament. First place being Tiger. I know that name's pretty familiar to me. How much have you guys been hearing about this?
I mean, he's been number 1 on SEA leaderboards since the season started. Like, he's been tearing it up. He's up there into the global leaderboards. I haven't seen him play, but I've heard great things.
I mean, you guys know I've been hyping up Tiger. I haven't actually seen him play, but he's obviously been dominating the SEA, and it's gonna be interesting. He's my personal pick. Like, I'm already gonna call it. He's my personal pick to win the SEA Invitational Regional. And I want to see how he'll perform in a Worlds environment and LAN against some of the guys, some of the more tenured players of the EU NA regions. I think that'll be super exciting to see further down the line.
I do want to say real quick, you know, for those who might be skeptical of, oh, how good can he be? He's never even played someone like EXO or something. Arum, who some of you may know from the community a long time ago, he went to Korea for a abroad trip and basically got the chance to play in the SEA servers. And he's played against Tiger, and he's played in the NA servers. And you know, from what I hear, the players in SEA are great, and there's a lot of talent there. So I think it's awesome that we're getting the chance to fly these people out to BCX so that we can really see what they can bring to the table in this LAN environment.
Yeah, and you know what, with a lot of players not having exposure yet from, you know, that region area of the world, I mean, Tiger coming over from SEA to win that Aussie Barbie Brawl 2. But as far as the Australia regional qualifiers go, you got to watch out because second place was taken by Kyler Alice and third place by really okay, QP Larguedong, we will say. We'll
Guy with this kind of sketchy
that one out there. All right, but you know what? Check out their play. Definitely something to watch. And I want to see more of them as these tournaments continue to roll out, especially when it comes time for that regional, which, you know, it's not too far out, judging from the schedule they were showing us on stream not too long ago. So that brings us back to the old classic, Gravy Cancel. You know these guys. You should be subscribing to them on Twitch. Get your little gravy boat and just, you know, tip it in chat. That Gravy Cancel Invitational happened. We were actually at Combo Breaker, Creed and myself, so we didn't get to check out too much of it, but you will recognize these names. Top 3, we've got first place, Daiku. You all know him as EXO. You all know him previously as Sword God even before that. So he's changing his name to Daiku. Apparently that is his real name?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Is that the
his birth name, I believe?
His birth name. His birthin' name.
And so I know that he said that EXO, well, he said that EXO was a generic name, and Daiku's a lot more unique, so he's going with that. I think that's cool. And the community so far has gotten on board in general. You know, you guys out there listening to the podcast, start calling him Daiku.
Yeah, I like seeing that because, you know, the old story of his original name, that EXO, he got it from Scroyan, which, you know, it was Exodromos, and then he shortened it down to just EXO.
Right.
So it's nice seeing him just kind of, you know, claiming one, and we've seen a lot of top players in a number of games start kind of just using their given names as opposed to some sort of handle. So is that telling for the future? I don't know. We'll see. But second place, one of my personal favorite players. I love watching this guy play just because he always comes out with something ridiculous. Jellyfish. Mm-hmm. And then third place, taken by Frost Cake. Again, another fantastic player.
All right. So, thank you for wrapping that up, TWK. That's our news for this week. And that brings us to our special guest, Zeloxory. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Hello.
How's it going, Zeloxory? All right. So, real quick, why don't you introduce yourself? You know, where are you from? How old are you?
I'm Zeloxory. I'm 17, and I live in the UK right now, just about London. Just around London.
UK.
United Kingdom, baby.
Coolio. Well, congrats. You won Combo Breaker.
Spoilers.
Yes.
Big question of the day. How did playing on LAN feel compared to playing online?
Playing on LAN felt so incredible after playing online and playing in NA tournaments for like a year or so now. So everything I could do was it was basically when I wanted to do it, I could do it. Just everything I wanted to do, I did. There was no later time it started, it was no lag, there was nothing, and everything just went perfectly. And I could even do like proper mind games with my opponent, so I could bait them out of dodges so much easier, and other situations like that. But there was also the problem where I was adjusting from online to LAN, So there were times that I was doing things early because I expected the latency to happen. So I'd say I'd be falling and I tried to do a sig immediately on landing. I'd do it a frame or two early, so instead I'd do a recovery or a ground pound before I touched the floor. So it was great. It was a great feeling once I got used to it, and I would always want to play LAN. And when I came back onto online, it felt so slow.
All right, and you said you came over from the UK, but you're not exactly unfamiliar with being in the US.
No.
I know we were talking at the event, you said you used to live in the US for a while, so how was it coming back, not only just to like visit, but also for a Brawlhalla tournament?
So I lived in the US from when I was about 6 to 9 or 10, and that was 2006 to 2009, and it felt incredible. Like it felt going back, it was really strange. Because when I went back, I started to remember all the time, all the really big moments I had in America that I'd forgotten about in England. Because like the heat would remind me of things, the car journeys, watching like say the Dunkin' Donuts and McDonald's that go by, and it was incredible. It was like a trip down memory lane for me.
Or even rain that wasn't extremely cold.
Oh my god, it was so weird. Like we went out to get burgers, and on the way back, it started to rain, and it felt so strange because the rain wasn't cold at all. It was warm water falling from the sky, and I was freaking out because it didn't make sense to me. Because like it rains here, it's cold, it's water, it's raining, it's fine. No, like why is it hot? It doesn't make sense. Also, your storms are violent. Damn, like that escalated so quickly. Like we just have like the peaceful raindrops, and just like misty days, and then you had like really bright sunny day turn into very hard torrential rain. It made no sense.
All right, well, on a completely unrelated note, how and when did you first discover Brawlhalla?
So I discovered Brawlhalla, I think March of last year. That was because a friend of mine, because me and my group of friends, we would play Smash. We would play Smash 4 together. And then, but we would have to go to someone's house because I don't have a Wii U and neither did my other friend, so we went to his house to play it. And it was annoying, we all couldn't go there. We couldn't go there all the time even though we wanted to play the game. And so one of my friends found Brawlhalla. And he was like, it's like Smash but on PC. And we were like, yeah, that sounds fun. And so he bought a four pack for us. And then gave it to each of us. And we played for about 10 to 20 minutes and then we didn't touch it at all afterwards. And then 2 months later, I was like, I'm bored because all the games I was playing, like, I just didn't enjoy, or there were single player games that I'd already finished, so I'd just be repeating. So I started playing Brawlhalla, and then I was like, this is pretty fun, I'm going to try. And then I think rankings came out soon after, so I was like, I'm going to try and get a high rank in that. So I got like to silver, and I was like, I want to get better. Got to gold, I want to get better. I got to platinum, and I got stuck there for a bit. I was like, I want to get to diamond. So I got to diamond, and then I was like, yeah, and then I got really into the competitive to the tournaments.
And I mean, at that time, I was gonna say, like, were EU servers even around at that point?
No, they weren't. When I started, I was playing on NA. I was there for the release of EU. I was there when they also like reset the servers on ranked and everything. Like the first time they did that. Mm-hmm. So the transition from NA to EU was great. I also was really happy because when they released the EU servers, when I was doing my rankings game, I got matched against EXO and I beat him. So I was like super happy.
Awesome. So, it gave you that kind of hunger. You wanted to keep climbing the ranks. But now that's kind of led you to be the only EU player to come over to the US and win a tournament. So are you going to be able to continue that high standard leading into BCX and I guess technically defending your title of offline champion?
So yeah, I'm definitely going to try. I'm going to do I'm going to do my qualified in the EU area. I'm going to try and get that if I can. That'd be great. If not, I'm still going over there because I've got BX3 helping me with the trip. Awesome. So yeah, I'm definitely going to try, and I'm almost certain I'll be able to get into the top 8.
I mean,
sure.
Top 8 for sure, but you've got some tough competition. Daiku and Dobrain and I don't want to discount any of the other EU players,
All
but
of
they're the
the
first
BX League
first ones
members,
that
you know?
that come to my head. What do you think your chances are against them? Like,
Okay. I have the advantage in that I've played in LAN before. I've played a big tournament in LAN, and I've been on a big stage with an audience and a big streaming audience in comparison to the others. So I'll be able to, I won't get nervous. So like, Stevenator had gotten nervous in the first game on the stage, but then he calmed himself down in the losers bracket. I won't suffer from that in the first few games, so I'll be able to get ahead of those that would. So I'll be able to beat those that would you normally beat me, but can quite handle the nerves. Plus, I think mind games are one of the best in EU.
but do you think in the regional qualifiers for BCS that you'll be able to take the first place to get your trip paid?
It depends, because when is that? What time of the year is
On
that?
a
Is
Saturday.
the EU in? No, I know it's on a Saturday. Like, what month is the EU BTS?
Well, I believe
think
that
the
in the
EU
order that
one
it goes to EU, and then it goes US West and US East. So you're
It's farthest to closest, as far as I
Yeah.
understand.
Mhm.
So
Like-
SEA Australia, EU, US East, US West. What am I missing?
Brazil.
South America.
Oh yeah, so it's gonna be, yeah. So SEA in Australia the first month or whatever, whenever they do it,
Alright.
and then I think EU and SA South America, and then it's gonna be US West and US East.
Alright, so like about July. So like the game could change in that time.
Mhm.
The new legend will most likely be released in around the time, and so like the game can change as well greatly. So like the dodge changes just happened, so it could adjust quick. It could more big changes could happen in that time. So I'm unsure, but I'll adapt. I'll get ready. I'm prepared.
Yeah, adapting
And
is
then
definitely
even
part of
then,
the game.
I would put money that I would win one of the $1,000 tournaments anyway.
Okay,
I'm
So-
gonna try all out for at
watch
least
out
one
for
of
that,
those.
people.
Because like I've got PX3 helping me with the trip. I don't technically need it.
All right.
So,
So now we're gonna move on to the sort of standard top player questions that I like to ask. First off, what games do you like to play in your free time besides Brawlhalla?
when I like to calm myself down after being tilted so much on ranked for whatever reason, I play Dark Souls, and I've got all three of the Dark Souls, all the editions, and I think I've played more Dark Souls than I have Brawlhalla. So that's what I love to play.
Duke's really loving the idea
That's
of
just a really like. Oh hey, I'm really tilted after playing Brawlhalla. Let me play like a game that's designed to be incredibly hard and like needlessly difficult.
It's hard for you.
oh.
I've never played
No,
Dark
but-
Souls, so I don't really care.
I love Dark Souls though. I love Dark
I
Souls.
do want to
too much.
say, God, it's been almost a year now. Back a while back, I think you, me, and Raiden played a lot of Binding of Isaac.
Oh yeah. I tried to stream it. It wouldn't work, and it was so annoying.
But I
it
mean,
would-
that's another game that can get very frustrating. So
Yeah, I get annoyed with it though. That's what I used to play in my spare time before I was able to do Dark Souls. Because like, I played Dark Souls 2 and I got bored of that after Scholar of the First Sin came out. Because
Mhm.
I just got bored. And it was between the time of Dark Souls 3 and Dark Souls 2, so I just played Binding of Isaac in the spare time then. Also, I love Risk of Rain. Risk of Rain is fun. It's a great game.
Very nice. So it sounds like roguelikes are a big
Yeah.
forte as far as other games go besides Brawlhalla.
Roguelike and fantasy games. They're my favourite.
Very nice. So, if you weren't dedicating yourself to becoming a top player in Brawlhalla, what other hobbies or careers might you be pursuing?
So this is before Brawlhalla as well, and before I even went to America, I was a big drama person. I loved doing drama. I loved being on stage. I did a bit of singing, but I was bad at singing. I'm not bad at singing, so it didn't really work out later on. And then I moved to America and I dropped it because I was super nervous. These were all new people I never met, so I dropped it. I didn't want to express myself as much anymore. So, but on my way, and then if I came back, I think I would have done more drama things. At least I played music, and then I stopped doing that when I started doing online things. So I probably would have done something along those lines.
It's pretty cool. Maybe we'll get a get a Brawlhalla play going on at BCX, starring Zeloxory. Let's make it happen, BMG.
No, please don't. I don't have my enthusiasm anymore.
All right. So your in-game name's Zoxery. Where does that come from? Is there an origin story behind that?
There's a slight origin story. It's not fully mine. So when I started going onto online, I was looking for games to play. One of those big ones was League of Legends. It was the first game I downloaded when I got my desktop. And one of the friends I had at the time, he was like introducing me to League of Legends, and I was like, I need a name. What should I name it? And he told me, use my name but change the first letter, because his name was Zeloxory. And so I made my name Zeloxory, and I've used that name ever since. It was much better than my last name, which was Garagod, which was not based on Naruto. It was based on Gyarados, but I spelt it wrong. So everyone thought I was on about Gara from Naruto, but no.
Did you ask your Zeloxory friend where he got his name idea from?
No. I think it was from like Kellogg's, and he changed it with an X and then add Ori to it. I don't know.
Oh my god.
So Zoxery probably has one of the more complicated name origins. As
so complicated, in fact, that one of the BX3 representative for Brawlhalla couldn't remember my name, so he's calling me Zeloxory.
All right, Zeloxory.
And they were trying to change my name to that. So no, it's mine.
Finally, who is your favorite legend in the game? And, you can split this up into who your favorite lore-wise or move-wise is, but
he's pulling out something out of the bag.
Oh.
Favorite legend, Ember.
Is that the Witcher?
No, Ember. Like, it's her in her Christmas colors. It's her high elf skin in Christmas colors. That's my skin.
You want to tell us where you got that?
I got that at Combo Breaker. So I commissioned this. It was like the iron thing you do to make them, and then like BX3 was giving some away as well as prizes for their fun tournaments after the main one. But
So
I won the Ember one as well, and then Creed sadly asked. Like, Creed wanted to get one. I think did you want it in pink or did you not?
I mean, I was totally happy to settle for like the default colors because there wasn't very much time, and I just sort of ran to the booth and they're like, "Can you copy this?" And they were like, "We don't do commissions anymore." And I'm like,
"Oh, you're so sad."
It's Sunday night.
True, but yeah. And then I just told you to keep it. Which I already had one. Okay, so, but I'm gonna say she's my favorite play-wise. But my favorite legend lore-wise is Roland, because his lore is pretty cool. Because like he's a knight that couldn't be beaten in his time, but constantly seeing a Valkyrie in his battles. So he strived to meet that Valkyrie again. So did more and more battles, but was never defeated. And then as he lay on his deathbed, the Valkyrie came down and punched him to kill him. So he died in battle, so he could go to Brawlhalla. I loved it. It was so good. I love that lore.
But if you had to pick between Zeloxory and Ember, so Roland and Ember, you had to pick one. Who would it be?
Ember. I just love both too much.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Zeloxory, and again, congratulations on winning Combo Breaker.
Thank you. You can exit me out holding this.
See ya. All right. And that moves us on to the balanced meta discussion of the podcast. So we did miss a week, so we're going to try to burn through, the last two patches real quick. Patch 2.15 was not a major balance patch. In fact, the biggest thing that 2.15 did was that it added clan support, which is super cool. 2.16 is where we got the addition of gauntlets and some other changes. So first of all is the dodge changes, and I know there's been a lot of discussion about this. Regular dodges are now harder to... I call them regular dodges. Some people call them sort of like neutral dodges, but basically dodges that aren't full speed dodging are now harder to attack out of, while full speed chase dodges remain cancelable. I've seen some very positive support about this change and some very negative support. Some people say it makes the game slower. Some people say it makes it more aggressive. What do you guys think?
Well, there's more to it than just the cancelability. They made it kind of shorter, right? So it's a little bit more predictable. Personally, I think I just need more time with it, but I kind of hated it when I first played it because I would dodge, because I use dodge a lot. I play Taros and I feel slow and I feel like I need a dodge to be my dash, so I run around with dodging everywhere all the time to the point where people tell me I dodge too much and it's stupid. But I use dodge a lot, and then I'll like after the new patch I would dodge forward and then I just kind of stand there because there's like they added frames at the end of it where you can't attack and whatnot. So it's uncomfortable right now, but I want to say that it's just I need more practice with it, and that I'm just jumping the gun by saying that it's a stupid change. But personally, I'm struggling with it. That's the polite way of saying it.
Yeah, I kind of like it. Just because for those of us who, you know, we've been playing for a very long time, I know all of us fit that bill. You can remember back before the dodge was being like sped up to try and break a lot of like the spacing gameplay that was like the big thing back then. It's kind of been brought back to at least these regular dodges how dodge used to be back then, where if you could bait it out, you could punish it like pretty reliably if you made the right choice to, you know, I'll pressure them, but I'm not going to attack. I'm going to force them to, you know, panic dodge, and then I'll be able to do something about it. And then, you know, that was kind of washed away somewhere along the way.
I sort of see where that happened. Basically, from my perspective, BMG took that old dodge and said, you know, a lot of people are wanting to use the dodge as an aggressor move, as something to approach someone with. And so they basically said, hey, let's make that time between using a dodge and attacking a lot shorter. And after that, they introduced chase dodges. They made the dodges, go a further distance, and that was all great. But then, on the flip side, people started using dodge more defensively. And basically, you could stand far back. If your opponent attacked you, you could dodge in any which direction and immediately follow up with an attack that send, your opponent flying the other way and continue that so that you didn't actually have to approach. The way I see this patch is that they're taking a middle ground now. They're saying, hey, we don't want to allow this defensive play of not having to approach, so that we make this dodge that if it's not a chase dodge, it's harder to attack out of. And then on the flip side, keep chase dodge in there, let people cancel out of it, and have people use chase dodge as the primary aggression tool.
Yeah, I feel like that's pretty spot on. And, it brings back a little bit of the breaking spacing play while kind of taking away some of that, as people always love to toss names and everything, passive, parry, whatever, because now if they do, when you come in at them, they do that like, oh, I'm standing still and then I'm just going to wait and dodge. Mm-hmm. Now you can actually kind of just bait it out and punish it.
And certainly, Duke, what you were talking about is the issue of getting used to it, because a lot of people's playstyles very much revolved around dodging or using regular dodges and then attacking out of that. Even players who aren't trying to be defensive, but people who use the dodge in this sort of more utility way. And I sort of see where that frustration comes from, but at the same time, I think that it's sort of inevitable that this change to, get rid of that passive play that BMG is trying to do is going to end up affecting some players negatively that wasn't always intended. And I think that over time, those players will eventually get used to it, and that timing will work itself out.
Yeah, and I mean, no, you go ahead.
Okay. I mean, I super understand, like, almost everyone who is intelligent about the game is like, yeah, this is a really good change. So I'm like more than willing to accept that I'm kind of just like missing something, or I'm just like not really connecting the right dots. But I don't, just like, my gut reaction is that if you're not momentum dodging, you're just doing the wrong dodge. Like, I don't see a lot of use out of the neutral dodge besides that, hey, now you're going to get punished for doing it. I mean, that's just my gut reaction. And obviously, like, I'm once again more than willing to admit that I'm probably missing a lot of things, but I don't hate it, but I don't love it. I just kind of accept that it is a thing and that I just need to relearn how to dodge properly. It just seems like you need to be more intelligent with how you dodge, which I guess is a good thing, but I like just like flying around the map with dodge if possible.
Yeah, and I mean, as I was gonna say, like you said, it's something that will just kind of take time because, you know, dodge has been such a core mechanic of Brawlhalla for so long, and we've been using it for like all this different movement and everything. So now if you don't have that momentum to go with it, you know, that the regular dodges, as I guess we'll call them, they are more so like your defensive move. Like if you're not having that, you should be using your movement or your attacks rather during that time. Those regular dodges are kind of your defensive thing, but it is going to be like a little bit of that shock to the system because it's a, you know, it's a pretty significant change to certain play styles and things like that. So there's going to be a lot of growing pains. Absolutely.
But, you know, hopefully it'll come out on top. And if it doesn't, you know, if it does somehow lead to less aggressive play, I'm sure there will be, you know, discussions at BMG and by the players too about, you know, why exactly that's happening and what can be done to fix it. So I think that in general, even changing something so that we can learn more about what needs to be done over time is a good step forward.
More feedback is always good.
More feedback, yes. So, speaking of feedback, Spear Downlight got toned down a little bit. That was something that the community very much wanted. It was the only Spear move that was changed. I know there's a lot of talk going on about Spear being, you know, overpowered, but I think that Spear Downlight as a move did have a little bit of... Basically, its hitboxes were a little too big, and people felt like they were getting hit constantly with it. You just throw it out there, and people would get hit. And it also was harder to punish, and people were finding it difficult to do that, and so it did get more recovery frames. So I think those two changes are pretty welcome overall. I'm pretty happy to see them. Is this gonna change perception of Spear overall, do you guys think?
I don't like this change.
All right.
Hear me out. I hate Spear. I think Spear... I'm glad it got nerfed, but I don't like this change because I don't think... This is going to sound dumb, but I don't think Spear needs an anti-air. I think Spear has a lot of really strong aerial moves that it actually doesn't need an anti-air, and that instead of making it where it is right now, where, yeah, it technically hits stacked, but only in like almost fringe cases. Like during the last tournament I watched, when someone would do a Spear Downlight, a lot of times it was just kind of whiffing, and then they just like dare above their opponent because they're like, oh crap, I missed. I think the better option is to actually make it where it won't hit an aerial unless it hits on the ground, kind of like I guess how Sword used to be, where the Sword change where now it has to hit ground and then it'll do the second attack in the air. I think if Spear only, like, it has to hit them on the ground first and then it'll carry them in the air, and then for the Sair follow-up, that'd be more interesting in my opinion. But
I see where you're coming from, but at the same time, I think if you remove Spear's anti-air, suddenly you get really floaty gameplay and everyone stays up in the air. And, you know, Spear's, you said it yourself, Spear's very strong in the air. And I think that having a balance between a ground gameplay and an air gameplay is pretty important. And if you remove the anti-air option from Spear Downlight, then suddenly you're telling people who are on the ground that, like, that's the wrong place to be.
Well, that's not necessarily true, right? Like, what's Sword's anti-air?
That's true, Sword doesn't have an anti-air, but
And Sword does fine.
has very strong ground attacks in general. Like, Downlight's very strong, Sidelight's very strong, and Neutrallight's very strong. If you take away Spear's own Downlight, I think that's a pretty core grounded attack. I don't know. What do you think, Tito? Okay.
I mean, these are all like really interesting ideas, and I like hearing them. I mean, Duke's got some fair points there, but I don't know. For as the kit like is at the moment, I like the changes that went in, but as far as like, you know, maybe it should or shouldn't have an anti-air, I don't know. If you start comparing it to other weapon sets, then you got to ask that fundamental question of like, okay, then should no weapons have anti-airs? And then what does that end up looking like? Should certain weapons have anti-airs? So, it's a pretty complex situation, but without like doing a major overhaul to like the spear set, because if you kind of take that away, I don't know, they would probably need to look at the kit as a whole again. Kind of similar when they did like the whole Lance rework.
Mhm.
I mean, they did that like 2 or 3 times. And then guns got a little bit of a rework at one point. So if you kind of take away that down light, which is its anti-air, one of the main, longer range threats that it has, except now it's vertical instead of horizontal, you gotta kind of see where everything else will mesh around with that.
And yeah, certainly. I think that a fundamental change, like looking at the entire kit as a whole, is something that would come out of, say, if everyone was suddenly winning tournaments with Spear, and I don't see that happening. And maybe that's an issue of, a lot of people will say that people aren't winning tournaments with Spear because they're either A, too used to Sword, and because that's very popular in tournaments in general, and B, like, they think it's boring, so they don't want to use it in tournaments. And I see where that's coming from, but I also don't see Spears being, like, incredibly overpowered or anything.
Yeah, I definitely think that the change made Spear a little bit closer to the balance point that I think people were looking for out of it. But I mean, we're gonna see what happens in the next couple weeks with Spear. I think it would have been a more interesting, maybe not the correct decision, had they done the opposite or kind of flipped it on its head.
Maybe. Unarmed Neutralite got a pretty substantial damage decrease with the explicit, they did say this, explicit intent of reducing the power of weapon throw into Neutralite. That's something that I've seen a lot of people do, and I guess BMG has heard the feedback and said, we're going to tone it down. It's pretty substantial, like, especially considering that Neutralite is its own move. You're now punishing the move itself for this issue of throwing. Like, was that the right call, do you think?
I mean, I'm just gonna, I'm frame data guy, I got numbers. So I'm gonna throw a few of them out here.
Sure.
It's the fastest move in the game, 3-frame startup. All right, it'll beat out a lot of things that kind of come at you from the front, because it does have decent range. Like, I know a lot of people are talking about gauntlets, and we weren't really going to talk about gauntlets this early on, but they're like, all right, oh man, this side light, it's really, messing me up because it rushes forward. Unarmed neutral light beats it out every time clean.
Mm-hmm.
So look at that, and then it's, you can use it with the throws, you can use it in certain panic situations, since it is just a 3-frame startup, which is technically the same startup as dodge, because it's invulnerable on the 3rd frame.
Mm-hmm.
And it did 25 damage previously.
So let me ask you a different question then. Yeah, you're really hammering on unarmed neutral right now. Do you think that just a damage decrease was even enough?
I mean, no. I love where it is. I love that move, like, especially because, you do have to be grounded for it and everything. It's not really an anti-air. It is lower range than most of the other, like, weapon and armed moves, but it's so fast.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, it was just always really a little strange that, like, this attack, so quick, unarmed, whatever, all these utility uses, did more damage than, like, spear neutral light, sword neutral light, like, just as much as lance neutral light. Like, it, I think the damage nerf was warranted.
Mm-hmm.
And it was pretty much like just, a good time for that to set in with a bunch of these other changes.
All right. I'm going to hit you with like 3 different things. All right.
All right.
First off, I got a conspiracy. Gauntlet Neutralite is like the same thing. So they wanted to make it so that it was apparent that Gauntlet Neutralite is going to be better than the unarmed Neutralite because you're using a weapon with it. So they nerf unarmed Neutralite to be like, yo, use Gauntlet Neutralite. It's the same thing, but better.
Maybe.
Number 2, if the goal is to prevent weapon throw into neutral light, why? Like, I guess I'm thinking, like, I guess very specifically, but like with hammer, if you just do a weapon throw and then you do the pickup neutral light, isn't that kind of the same thing? Like, is that
Kind of, it's 2 frames difference.
so? I guess if frames matter to people that are smart, I don't.
That those 2 frames.
It's
will
those 2
definitely make a
frames.
difference.
I mean, it's a full dodge startup, so
Okay.
it matters.
All right. Well, I just thought that the weapon, like I think, doesn't Crocky, he had a string where he would do like a weapon toss neutral light, pick up neutral light with the spear.
Yep.
And that was, I think that was interesting. So that
That's
kind of
really
goes
cool.
into my third point, which is that I think neutral light as a move, the unarmed neutral light to me is something that's very interesting in the sense that there's no direct follow-up. There's no true combo after it, right? It's not like unarmed downlight where you get the downlight into ground pound or recovery, whatever button you want to press. With unarmed neutral light, it's not there's no true follow-up, but there is multiple read opportunities, right? So you get an unarmed neutral light, and then you can do a chase dodge neutral light, and if they make the wrong decision, then you're on them again. Or if they jump, then you can do a jump nair and you're on them again. Like, it's one of those things that's really interesting to me in the sense that there's no like, oh, okay, every time I hit a neutral light, I'm gonna always do this because it's always gonna work. But there is like a kind of like a list of like, all right, I think he's gonna do this, so now I have this, like, I have, that kind of playbook.
Those branching mind games.
It's one of those things that in particular, it's one of those little things, and it works for everyone. It's not like specific to a certain character, and that's why I think unarmed neutral light, sure, it's kind of stupid in the 3 frames and the 25 damage. I understand that, but the little thing of it's not a true combo thing, and every single follow up after it is a read. That stuff is fascinating to me, and that's why I personally would love if neutral light was used more, because as of late, unarmed's gone the way of downlight into whatever string, and I think that whole true combo string stuff is great, but if we went closer to neutral light and to reads, that would be more fascinating gameplay to me.
Yeah, I think unarmed is still vastly unexplored. I mean, I'm gonna say there's stuff that's not out there right now that people could and should be doing with unarmed. But I'll let you guys play around in training mode. Hit that up.
TJK know things we don't. Possibly.
man.
All right. I'm gonna go into something else, and this isn't specific to the patch, but this is something I picked up at Combo Breaker. So Combo Breaker was definitely a fantastic experience, and one of the great things about it was that, it's not just Brawlhalla, obviously. It's all sorts of fighting games. And I got to talk to the developers, and I got to sort of observe these other fighting games, and this is something that I sort of noticed, is that a lot of people don't like Brawlhalla because it feels slow. And, they have these terms, parry, passive, for this gameplay style where it's just hard to approach. And so I sat down and sort of thought, why does this exist in our fighting game, but not in the other fighting games? So if you look at some of the traditional fighting games, things like Street Fighter, or Mortal Kombat or something like that, the reason that issue doesn't lie there is because the maps are really small and the characters are really big. So there's nowhere to run. You can't just go to the back and wait for your opponent to attack. It's just not happening. And so obviously the way that Brawlhalla plays, it's not really going to work. We can't make all the maps super small. I'm glad they did make the maps smaller than they were. They had that change where all the 1v1 maps got a little bit smaller, and I think that was great. But you can't make them, teeny tiny. So that's not.
Did you see that test map? Because that one was fun.
Yeah, I mean, that's cool, but you can only go so far. So the other comparison is that there is one fighting game that has large maps, and that does play like Brawlhalla, and that's Super Smash Brothers. And there's a lot of comparisons to there, but Super Smash Brothers doesn't feel as passive as Brawlhalla does. And why is that? Because Super Smash Brothers has a horizontal dash, and I think that's really key, because that allows you to really close that gap really quickly. And I think that's one of the fundamental things that personally I think Brawlhalla is missing, is something to make horizontal movement speed faster. That can either be a dash, like a separate move, or you can just take horizontal movement and increase the speed outright, especially on the ground, because air gameplay has the benefit of having high vertical speed in fast falling, but there was never anything to compensate that on the ground. And when fast falling went into the game, a lot of people took to the air a lot more, because being able to fast fall or not fast fall and vary your move speed like that made the air gameplay really strong. You could really mix things up, and the ground gameplay doesn't have that. So I think the game would really benefit from having either a dash or a horizontal movement increase. Like, what do you guys think of that?
So this is actually something that I kind of hinted at back when I was on the podcast with Berthan, where I was saying that when your aggressive option is also your defensive option, that's right now your forward dash is also the same as your evade, right? Which they're separating with, the recent changes to how dodging works. And I think if the way that things are looking, that the trend is going to be momentum dodge is going to become that kind of dedicated dash, and then the regular dodge is your dedicated defensive option. And so I would expect a little bit more of like separation between the two, not necessarily by button pressing, but like we're going to buff the way momentum dashes work. I think that'd be awesome if they did that, and that you could just like kind of momentum dash, like lower the cooldown on momentum if you correctly momentum dash or something like that. Because that'll help with aggressive options. But I like the idea of, I don't think they're ever going to do this, but I like the idea of having dashes be separated. As you kind of said, and I'm sure TWK is aware of, almost every fighting game has a dash, right? Like Smash Bros has whatever the hell form of dash they want to call it. I don't really remember off the top of my head. Street Fighter has dash, MBC has dash. It's usually double tap forward, or you can press two buttons at the same time. There's dashes to help you with your movement. And there's sometimes there's a penalty for doing it, but I'm just thinking of Marvel right now, and you could just spam the shit out of it, and you just like sprint around the map, and it's fun and it's fast. And I don't think anyone thinks Marvel's slow. They can think that Marvel sucks because there's hundreds of zeros, and you can think about Chris G playing Morrigan and just spamming fireballs everywhere, but no one's gonna say that they're slow. But once again, I don't think that's ever gonna happen. I don't think BMG is gonna put a dedicated dash button. So I think the intelligent and the way that it seems to be trending is that they're going to put more of a separation between the dash and the just like general evasion. But I will say, kind of to your point about movement, horizontal movement, I want them to actually buff aerial horizontal movement, because I like moving in the air. Obviously, I don't really want the whole Dragon Ball Z like flying, but I just think right now if you go up, you kind of like go like this, right? It's just a very short arc. Whereas if you could like in normal fight, or not normal fighting, sorry, I'm thinking of like arcade fighters and like anime fighters.
Traditional.
You have the option of a neutral jump, and if they come at you, then you can do like a neutral jump aerial, or you can kind of do a forward jump, and then you're just stuck in that arc and you can do an aerial. But obviously blocking in that is different. You can't just evade out at the end of it. In Marvel, you can block it during it, but obviously there's other options that you can do a jump grapple, and that's the whole rock, paper, scissors thing. I'm just getting off topic. But I would love if you could have slightly more aerial horizontal movement. I know some people kind of hated aerial things, and they hate how floaty Brawlhalla can be, and I understand that critique, and I also kind of agree in the whole sense that Brawlhalla can be very floaty, and I hate people who just do bunny hops the whole time and just wait for you to come at them. But if you can aerial approach, I think giving more approach options is gonna, not everyone's gonna use it, some people are gonna abuse it, I understand that, but giving more approach options and then toning them down and saying like, all right, well, fuck that guy for doing that kind of style, then like figure out what's wrong with that, I think that's more interesting. Maybe not correct, but I think that's the way that things should be done. Anyways, TWK, you probably have more enlightened.
TWK, the guy
opinion.
who's super into fighting games. I want to hear what you have to say.
All right. I mean, I just want to first, get it out of the way and just say, I think it would be cool. It's definitely something worth exploring. The extra horizontal movement, because it is true. We do have, that vertical movement. You've got your jumps, you've got your fast falls. I mean, even a lot of people use certain down airs, recoveries, ground pounds as extra vertical movement. Horizontal movement, we've got the chase dodges now, but you have that kind of in all directions. And then there are certain side light attacks that will give you kind of that extra distance, that little kind of a dash boost feel. You usually see it on like sword side light, things like that. But
a sword side sig is like a unique move that actually really moves you forward. Like I really enjoyed using that.
Yeah, that one is a ton of fun. I do see where it kind of, quickly fell out of use a little bit around some of the higher tiers, because they kind of noticed like, oh, that's also my attack charge, so I'm kind of left wide open when I do it. There's nothing else I can do other than let go into the attack. And people were just kind of getting beat out with whatever attacks, but then they kind of adjusted, so they were letting it go just a little bit earlier and catching people with the swing. And we've been seeing that in, some tournaments like, I don't know, a couple months ago up until recently. But, more on the horizontal movement, you're right. Every other fighting game has more significant horizontal movement options, whether it be a short burst dash like in Street Fighter, or a full-on run like in King of Fighters or certain Marvel characters, Blaze Blue, whatever. And I think, I don't know, that's something worth exploring, at least if, I'm sure BMG's toyed around with a bunch of stuff, because as they said, everything that they put in, even as test features, that's not even a fraction of all the in-house testing that they've done.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned test features, like, even if they don't want to implement this in ranked necessarily because it could have such drastic changes, maybe stick it in test features and see how players react to it.
There was that pretty interesting one not too long ago that they tossed in, where it was out of your momentum dodge, like you were fully invulnerable until a hitbox came out. Mm-hmm. So, people were showing all kinds of like crazy stuff with that, as far as charging signatures out of a momentum dodge, or momentum dodging into the lance recovery and just being invulnerable until it came out. Just kind of nuts, but really cool. So yeah, I don't know, maybe that's something they can lean into a little bit more as they test this kind of thing, would be those test features options. If, enough people are looking for some sort of horizontal movement and they're able to find something that feels good enough to kind of put out there in the wild, if only in test features.
Yeah.
I got two more things that I remembered. All right. One, going back to the whole dodges and movement and all that. Personally, I used to use momentum dodge as my horizontal aerial movement, right? So as Teros, I would do like a jump, horizontal dodge, dare. So that was my way of kind of doing like horizontal aerial movement. And now that horizontal dodging, or now that dodging has kind of been changed, I'm getting screwed up on that, but like it's just kind of a point as far as like they changed the way the dodges work, and now to me personally that horizontal movement is a little bit hindered. And then the other thing is, I know we don't really want to talk about gauntlets like it's a faux pas, but personally I think gauntlets feel very smooth as far as movement goes.
Yeah.
The character core has 4 movement speed. At no time do I feel like I'm slow, and it's partly because of the way that the gauntlet moves work. Obviously I'm focusing on like using when I'm playing with gauntlets versus when I'm playing with hammer, but like with gauntlets you can sidelight, it has some horizontal movement. The Sayer has like almost half of the lance movement. The downlight, it has stupid horizontal range, but it also has some forward movement. All of it feels like it's flowing in a direction, and that helps gauntlets not feel stagnant, right? Yeah. Versus versus hammer, right, where you stomp, right? Stomp, then you do a move. Hammer, you do like, it has 3 kicks, but it's a very short move of horizontal movement, right? Like the side light has some horizontal movement, and that one feels great. And then some people get butthurt because it's all like spammy or whatever, and it's spacing. I don't care, but I'm just saying, like, as far as movement goes, I think gauntlets are something to be kind of like taking a magnifying glass and being like, why does this feel not shitty?
Yeah. And I mean, obviously we're not expecting a rework of every weapon to make them all feel great as gauntlets,
No, I
but
am.
that's that's something to look at. You definitely sort of hit the nail on the head that, like, hey, here's gauntlets. It feels smooth. Why does it feel smooth? Maybe it's because of horizontal movement.
Yeah, they flow just so incredibly well. Like, just all the moves together. I mean, you know, they do very little damage, but you're just always going with them. It just feels really good to play with. It's kind of like how, you know, when Bow first came out, except amplified a little bit even more.
I can definitely see that. Well, I believe we've run out of time now. I think that was some great discussion. Hopefully we covered everything in the news segment that we could. And of course, thanks again to Zeloxory for coming out and being our guest for this week. And we can't wait to see you next week. Bye for now.